Today's date, Tuesday the 9th. Are we ready, Nikki? All right, thank you. Okay, it is Tuesday, April the 9th. I'd like to call this meeting of the CRCRC to order. We'll start with roll call.
Alex Robinette.
Okay.
Jay Van Bevelen.
Dave Bench.
Tom Farrell.
Okay, 4 are present. That gives us a quorum, so we can proceed. We have a consent agenda that consists of just our meeting minutes from last. Any motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes as read?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, 4-0, carries. We're on to our regular agenda. First item, number 3, is discussion and possible action on emails and letters to the CRCRC from March 23rd, 24th to April 4th, 2024. Is that only the letter that we had gotten from Amy Patillo?
No,
Is
there
there
was
any?
something about Brooke and somebody that lives on Pleasant. There was some
Yes.
exchange that went out.
That's right, and that fellow, his name escapes me, came actually to the last P&Z meeting on my invitation. And he stated his concern about the size of the house that was growing next door to him. Yes, thank you. And I had told him that his letter had been circulated to the P&Z and to this group. And that, you know, we were working on that particular thing. And he seemed satisfied with that. Anything else that would need some discussion around that? Okay, we can move on, I think, to agenda item number 4, discussion of possible action regarding next steps following April 3rd. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, let me back up just a bit. I just
Okay.
want to, for the record, so we put it in our minutes, I
All
want
right.
to thank these 2 citizens for submitting their letters
Oh,
and
right.
participating in that.
Well, I think that's very nice, Tom, and I appreciate you doing
We'll have
that.
a record of that when
That's right.
they do that.
That's right. All right, we, good?
I'm sorry.
The thank you
just,
happen is good, that's very good. Yeah,
Reading my notes slower than you're talking.
if you go back to the P&Z minutes, or the P&Z video, when he left, or when he was here and got up, I said, I thanked him for being there and told him that we don't get many visitors.
He's been here before and spoken to us as well,
Has he?
early in the process. Yep.
Okay, well, good. Well, he had a lot of good things to say, and I mean, useful things to say. So, all right, moving on to a regular agenda number 4, discussion and possible action regarding next steps following the April 3rd, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission presentation of building height recommendations. You probably know that we had gotten the building height recommendations approved by P&Z at a vote 5-1. There were 6 present, and 1 voted against it primarily because he
No,
didn't.
abstained. Or does that count
Well,
as
that
voting
was-
against?
He did say abstain, and I checked with legal and said, no, there is no abstaining.
Gotcha.
It's really a vote of no.
Okay.
And so that no vote represented his feeling that he didn't like tenting. He didn't like the tenting aspect of what we were presenting. And
But no suggestion about an alternative?
no, actually, he's a fairly quiet man, and Mike Hall, and he did not say anything during the discussion about approval or disapproval. Did not say a word. And whenever the vote was taken, it was a bit of a surprise to me that he had voted against it. So after the vote was taken, I said, well, Mike, you know, why are you voting against this? And he said, I don't like tenting. I used to live in Austin. I don't like the McMansion ordinance, and so on. I said, well, you could have said something about that before. And then the lawyer says next to me, he says, well, it doesn't make any difference. The vote's taken. And so, but, you know, it's good to know.
I'd like to
But
add
he
to
voted-
that.
He abstained rather than voted against, right?
He's,
I realize
he
what it
said that. He said that he abstained. And then I asked the lawyer, I says, can he do that? And he said no.
hall.
is absent, well, there's,
So he, I think he just said it counted as a no vote.
It
it
did
counted
count.
as a
So
no.
he's
It
allowed,
does
you're
count
allowed
as a
to
no
abstain,
vote.
it just
Okay.
technically counts as a no.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I botched that meeting. I showed up an hour late, so I completely missed it. And by the time I arrived, you guys were already into the vote, so I didn't feel like I could speak. But I was listening to what Mike Hall said, and specifically, he didn't like the aspect of tenting that he described. People would have to build these jagged stair-step houses. What I wanted to say is you can't actually like do that literally, because there's no value in having a space that's a foot by a foot, like, you know, incrementally. So it's really just an envelope within which you can build, with the idea that you would have, and maybe that this is our opportunity to clarify, more broad terracing effectively. And so if this isn't working down the road, maybe that's something that we look at. We say, at a certain height, you have to go inboard more than a foot. Maybe it
Okay.
has to be 5 feet. I don't know. These are
Yeah.
just thoughts.
Well, yeah, that might
but
be a detail that we want to.
he also
add in.
he felt like the limitations would lend themselves to literal architecture that matched that a 15-foot
Yeah.
dormer requirement would lead to all these 15-foot dormers, which from my perspective is not the case. And so I think there's some education that needs to go into that, but maybe there's some fine tuning. But I don't have any alternatives, so I welcome other people's
And I think that's the key thing, is to say, look, Mike, we know what the issue is, and we looked at the alternatives, and this is the most palatable way to approach this thing. We couldn't, I mean, if you have a better suggestion, we're listening. But do y'all think, y'all were there, and I apologize, I wasn't, but did he understand what we were doing with tinning and why, and all the?
After the meeting, Duke got with him,
Okay.
okay, and explained in better detail what it
Okay.
was we were trying to do. And Duke says he thought he had some impact, but he's not sure that he was convinced. So,
Well,
just that. But
Well, he's repeating something that a lot of people say, and so it's very easy for people to sort of bandwagon along with this type of language to say, well, it's led to some really weird designs in Austin. I mean, I would like for somebody to show me examples of.
there's some pretty bad stuff.
Okay.
Well,
Well-
I don't mind telling you, I don't like tinting.
Okay.
That term at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But I don't have a better alternative
Mhm.
to get to the, how we resolve the issue that we see.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have that than what we have now.
Well, my concern from the example that we showed last time with the house on 3225 Park Hills is that right now they actually do. I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry.
It's all right, I think it was blurred in the,
But
don't matter.
anyway,
Okay. I mean, well, that it actually follows a terracing concept that we like. That you know, it comes
Yeah,
up to a certain
does.
height and it steps in a certain amount before it goes up again. So that's a positive. That's all I was going to say. But under our rules, it could actually become more of an impact because it allows people to build higher and taller, closer to the setback effectively. There are limitations. You know, you can't go over 25 feet, but
So as I understand it, though, the P and Z approved this 5-1,
that's right,
and so the next step
is to go
going
to city
forward
council,
is,
which it will. And-
But not tonight.
Not tonight, but it will go for the next city council meeting, next Wednesday.
don't wanna
But I
take
think
up-
that
I
the
won't
point-
take up my time, but the city council knows that it's the Wednesday is their day rather than Tuesday, right?
That's correct, this is a special meeting.
It's a special meeting.
Just
A variance.
It's a special-
5 minutes.
Yeah.
the reason, oh, I'm sorry. I think that the point that Mike was making, I think it's important for us to discuss it because I don't think he's the only one that has that viewpoint.
Sure.
And so for us to really be able to like you know, think about it and,
I think that what's important is that if this comes up in city council, to have a ready answer.
that's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
where I was headed.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because,
Now,
yeah.
I would start off by saying the vote was not 5-1. The vote was 5-0 with one abstention.
Well, I've already sent a note to city council saying that it was 5-1.
Well, that's a-
I've already done that.
But I think, but that's really what it was.
And I think anytime there's a 5-1 or 5-0 abstention, it shows that there is more than one view out there,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that we recognize
Yeah.
that, and it is worth having explanations,
Yeah.
you know, for that party or
Yeah.
parties of why, you know, it
Couldn't agree more.
And what could we do to improve it? I'd love to get a unanimous vote, so.
I would have loved to. Well, you know, my feeling is that had Mike mentioned it during the discussion,
Mm-hmm,
we could have included, that didn't come up in the discussion, we could have included in the discussion, and I might have been able to convince him that, you know, that we'll take a suggestion if you've got one,
mm-hmm,
or that given the amount of research that we've done in this, we just feel that this is the best, strongest way to handle our situation. And he might have gone along with it, but we didn't really have an opportunity to have that argument. It didn't happen.
well, and because I got here late, I'm sorry, was there review of all the other, that it came from a lot of other cities? Like, we didn't invent this, and it's not just in Austin, but
What
it's
we did,
a
you
lot
know,
of,
really, we cut right to the chase.
Yeah.
You know, I put, you know, these are the 5 or 6, you know, bullet points that are included in the recommendation. Most, you guys know what these things all mean.
Mhm.
There's nothing new here. And then we just started talking right off the get. I said, you know, we have a bunch of information here that is, you know, ready to go, but you kind of already know the background and so on. This is just supporting documentation
Mhm.
for what you already know.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there have been, it is not just a Rowan Wood invention here. This is stuff that's been,
Mm-hmm. It was
Maybe.
actually an effort to kind of take aspects of tinting and get rid of a lot of the kind of the difficulty of it and simplify it. But, you know, maybe it's worth taking yet another look at
I
further
think it's just a readiness
simplification.
thing,
I
truly.
will
Yeah.
tell you, anytime we change anything that we do, there's gonna be, you're gonna have it's an uphill battle on everything you
Mhm.
change. But more importantly, when we're using terms that, like tinning, we're gonna have to do an education on what that really means and
Mhm.
why we're doing it. But I think that's I thought it was great. I mean, I thought what you submitted to me, what you submitted, Alex, I understood.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood how it would work and why it was a benefit on that. So, but, you know, the term itself, if you just asked me, do you want tinning, I'd say no, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want that.
Well, what's happened the day after this P&Z meeting, I sent city council members and Ashley and Desiree and the mayor a note saying what had happened the previous evening, and then included with the note the bullet point recommendation and the summaries for the questions that have to do with building height that Alex had worked on, and it has the ChatGPT piece in there and the percentages of survey people who were in favor versus not in favor of these things. Something for them to chew on just in preparation for this upcoming city council meeting. And then I also offered finally that if there was any question that about any lack of understanding in what we were proposing here, that we would be happy to put on a short workshop to take you through it. These are the bullet items, and these are the reasons why we got to that. This is the supporting documentation to support these decisions. And so they were with instructions that if they wanted to do that, to contact either Desiree or Ashley or both, that yes, they would like to see something like that. Well, I asked Ashley and she told me that no, they have not responded that way. I did get one thank you from one city council member for the note. So I feel like at least we have,
Sorry.
whoa, watch it, no. Incoming, you all right?
I think I just kicked the wire or something.
Is it still working?
It's green.
Is it working?
Touch it.
Test. Yep, it's good. All right. So, anyway, we hadn't heard from them, and I guess the offer is still on the table, but I don't expect anybody to take us up on it. But you know, they have the information, and some of the questions that I've heard from City Council prior was, is there really good public support? I believe there is. I think they know that now from the summary sheets and all that, and I don't have any more to say about it. So
Are you asking it to be put on the next city council agenda?
it's
or-
not, P&Z has passed it, it is going on the next city council agenda.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could stop it, but we're not going to.
I would say this is this is the fourth time I've been involved in dealing with height. This is by far the most professional way to look at it. I mean, basically the others were, you know, throw a dart at the dartboard and wherever that number hit, that's what our height was on that. It wasn't done in a very systematic way, I didn't think. This has been head and shoulders, I mean, it's just not even close.
Well, it's all about Alex, frankly.
Yeah.
She's done
Well,
a
that's okay.
fantastic job on
And
it.
yes,
Yeah, so,
I agree with that.
yeah.
For the next city council meeting,
A week from tomorrow,
yeah,
yes.
um,
Yes. I'm not gonna be here.
I will not be here.
Jay. Jay, would
not
you?
that you're our last resort.
Can you?
No.
Yeah, I can,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah.
could be there with you.
I
but
just
Would-
need backup.
would you
I'm not
come?
gonna represent the
Yeah.
committee.
Would you come to the city council meeting next Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay, I've already
That'd be awesome.
asked staff if we could have it moved up front.
Oh,
It's
thank
gonna
you,
happen.
okay.
Okay, so you'll get your bedtime. And
You have to say that on public record.
I'm sorry. So, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so, you're gonna wanna look at what staff has prepared early on and make sure that they have everything that's needed in order for us to present a convincing argument. I don't know what you're planning on putting in the packet yet.
Well, we were,
Maybe you could help right now.
we are expecting, so from the chair from P&Z, you know, the information you would like put forward to city council, we can take the exact same information that was given to P&Z. But if there's additional things you would like added or changed,
That's a
That
great
would be
start. Why
helpful.
don't we start with that? If you
Okay.
would take all of that information, just like that, and put it in there, and I've already asked Alex, if there's anything else you wanna get in there, make sure you let
I
you
think
folks know by
I need
tomorrow.
to look at, is there something I can
Remember
look
the
at?
stuff, it was.
Just all the P&Z
It's the
packet.
same stuff.
Okay.
You had that really long document that's got all the supporting information and what our individual opinions on
Mhm.
things were and so on.
So
You had
that's in
that
there.
one
That's
document.
great.
We have the bullet point, document. We have, what else is in there?
What about the photographs
The-
that are
you-
marked
this,
up? Can we use
yeah,
those?
you can,
Yeah, those.
you're allowed to have the two photos, and that might be, I can't edit out the other part. I don't have this PDF without the other graphics in there.
Okay,
So if you could edit out those graphics and just have the two photographs, that might be very useful.
just photos, not,
Just the photos.
got it, okay.
That's the guidance I've been given is that we can use the photographs, not the other stuff.
Okay,
Okay?
and are we allowed to present? Okay, okay.
You might see if Duke could be there.
He's out of town too.
He's not
yeah.
coming.
That week.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, he'll be out of town, so it's,
Another
folks are just out of reach. it's we were supposed to do this last month, and I'm sorry, you know, I scheduled my thing to be not there, so I thought we'd be past this.
Yeah, I know.
So.
I know. It's okay.
Good luck. Vaya con Dios.
Yeah, right?
You know, so, all right.
Okay.
That's kind of really what I wanted to have this discussion, just to kind of get us prepped up for this, you know. If there's anything else, I'm on the plane tomorrow morning. I'll be glad to do anything I can between now and then.
Alex, I
We're
would
good.
tell you that if it looks like it's going to be that you have problems, you can always ask them to table it until,
Cut and run?
yeah. Well, no, I mean, what it does,
Yeah, yeah.
it gives you another month.
Yeah,
to-
we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah.
to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Tied up,
For sure.
you would
Yeah.
have heard the objections.
Right.
And that gives you a month to, deal with them outside of immediate,
Yeah.
That's right.
deals.
That's
Okay.
right. And that's fair.
Yeah.
And we don't want to no vote.
Right.
Yes, we just don't want that. It makes it
Okay.
much more difficult.
Okay.
So, yes, I have every confidence that you're going to get this across the line. So,
Fingers crossed.
right on. Thanks, folks. Okay, we have any more on that? All right, let's move on to discussion item number 5, discussion of possible action on the tree subcommittee recommendations. Jay, it's your show.
I have a
Do
pen over here.
you have a copy of the recommendations?
Is that an extra copy?
Oh, yeah, I printed out
I
extra
just have
copies.
them on my computer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh,
And,
you need a hard copy?
You can, I've got mine.
Oh, this is lovely.
Mine's-
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay.
This is great.
it's exactly
Yeah,
what was
it's
in
on,
the packet.
it's on the,
It's the same, yeah, it's the same thing. All right. We can proceed through this just by kind of walking through them one by one, or you want to start us off?
Well, this is, we have, these were the recommendations from the subcommittee, and we went through it as a entire committee. The CRCRC went through all of it, piece by piece, and there were some minor changes recommended when we did that, so those were incorporated in this version. And so we haven't voted on this version yet, and I think that's what we're here to do, is to go through this item by item and either vote it in toto or each one, you know, up or down, to be presented to the P and Z at their next meeting. Is that your understanding what we're doing here?
That sounds like,
Okay.
sounds like the plan. I have given P and Z a heads up that I thought that we would be at the next meeting with trees.
Okay.
So, you know, it's
So there's just an introductory statement that hasn't
Uh-huh.
changed. I did want to ask, your interpretations, will these be able to go with the packet to the P and Z committee?
They can.
Question
yeah.
15 and 16?
Yeah.
And did you get my conclusion
I
statement?
did, and it's probably, I'm not sure where it is. I'll make
Okay.
sure the city has it, but I thought I had added it.
so you're talking about the summary business?
Yeah, with the GPT.
Yeah, right, yeah.
documents in there for those two
Those are
questions.
really, I think those are going to really help bring this across the line.
So could we get that to include to the P and Z presentation?
Fifteen through 17, yeah, I put all your stuff here.
Oh, they're in there? Okay.
I guess I need to send it to staff, which I will do right now.
Okay, so,
So-
item number 1, and I put the references to the exact, paragraph or subdivision of the ordinance language. So change the name of Article 2, Division 10, Subdivision 2 from, it's now just tree canopy management to residential landscape and tree canopy management. And the reason why we're recommending that is just to get the foot in the door that eventually we might want to have some regulations about landscaping in general, not just trees. And just make this, be able to include that if it happens in the future. It also, item number 2 is to introduce a statement that landscape, because the city experiences frequent drought conditions, low water demanding landscapes, xeriscapes are encouraged by using native and adapted low water use plants from the Austin Green Grow Green Guide. I hope it's not a problem putting something from Austin in there, but it's actually extremely useful guide. Consideration should also be given to planting turf grass on less than 50% of the total landscaped areas, with that turf grass preferably having summer dormancy capabilities such as buffalo grass, zoysia grass, or non-seeding varieties of Bermuda grass. I did put in there that this is just educational or suggestive language. It's not a regulation. It's just to, raise the topic, let people know that we're in that kind of climate, and if they would consider doing xeriscaping.
So
in their landscape.
the current tree ordinance does have kind of a preface in it that kind of describes what it aims to do, right?
It doesn't have anything about landscaping, just
tree
canopy.
But
Yes.
yeah, but there is, the intention of this ordinance is such and such, and I know it's only tree canopy right now,
Right.
but it's there, right? So this is the same kind of language, but dealing with landscaping.
That's right.
So
And it goes in the same section, the purpose
So
section.
it's not, so it's nothing other than what we've already been used to and all of that. We're just adding to, improving.
The purpose section, yeah.
Sure, okay.
Jay, just to preface it, I think adding a future landscaping section is really the way to go, in my opinion, for a lot of reasons. And I think it'll take a.
Actually, this whole section is, Division 10 of the ordinance is called landscaping.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is now we're into subdivisions, and that's where I put this landscape information. So the division is landscaping.
Okay. Landscaping is something that Rollingwood, we haven't spent very much time on, and for a reason, people didn't even do it, but there is a simple economic issue involved with landscaping, and that whatever water I use is going to impact what you have to pay, because our rates are determined by the city of Austin, and they determine those partially by peak use of whenever occurs, and we're always either 1 or 2 the worst. And so our rates are higher than they need to be because of that. And that's I don't want to go tell my wife that the city's going to tell her what plants to put in. I'll let y'all guys do that, and I'll not be around that day. But that has an impact on each one of our economics of what we do.
And there are other communities around us who already have it in their ordinance that you can only plant so much of your yard in grass, in turf grass.
Well, that like Westlake, for example, they don't own their own water system. They're District 10, Water District 10. Water District 10 has a specific deal that says, okay, Jay, you have X amount of gallons to use per month. You use that up, you don't get any more.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure how they enforce that, but that's what their rules are.
Yeah,
The
and again,
threat of that is,
this iteration, we're not really aiming for that kind of regulation, but just education. So, do we need to?
I think what we want to do is to get a motion and a vote on this, that this
On
gets
each
included.
item?
Why don't we? And then there will be no confusion whenever it goes to P and Z as to whether or not we approve this going forward.
Well, we're voting on item 2.
Well, of item 1 and 2, I think.
Well, it's,
We can-
I'd certainly make that motion. It's educational, it's not regulatory.
Right.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's a great thing to remind every time you can. So
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, make it.
I did. That was the motion.
Can we get a few more words around there, Tom? Come on.
Okay, I
Okay,
make a
I'll be at
motion that we approve the items number 1 and 2 for submission to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their approval.
All right, okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion, we got a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Okay.
Very good.
Item
Moving
number
on.
3 is probably one of the more important things we think of the changes that we're making, and that's to insert a definition for heritage tree category into the ordinance, which are those trees 24 inches in diameter, measured 4.5 feet above natural grade. And there's the exact wording. Going through the survey, a lot of people thought that we already had a heritage tree definition, and we don't. And, they're thinking protected trees are heritage trees, but they're really two separate items. So, anyway, the points here is the size of the tree, 24 inches of diameter, measured 4.5 feet above natural grade, and is one of the protected species. So you can take out a 2-foot wide cedar tree without a permit. That stands. That's not considered a heritage tree
Or a protected tree.
or a protected tree.
You mean a juniper, just to be clear, not a
Yes.
cedar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juniperus asheri.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, and ash juniper, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Jay, let me ask you a basic question as we get into this. If I have a lot that has a heritage tree per the definition here, I'm gonna still be able to utilize my lot in some way. I mean, I'm not gonna be, it's not a taking from the city, because that's always been the holdup we've had on our tree ordinances.
Okay, so maybe we should take that item.
I've
the same-
read this, so I understand. I was just for the record saying, if you have that, you're gonna be able to build on that lot regardless.
Yes, you'll still have a way to remove that heritage tree
Yeah.
with city council approval.
Right.
And
So,
that's, just to clarify, within the buildable area and the setbacks. Wherever the heritage tree is, you have to get approval?
Yes.
Okay.
okay, why don't we catch that here when that comes up? But right now, I think the definition of the heritage tree is what we're really talking
Gotcha.
about.
Fair point.
And let's get a motion on that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I make a motion that we do include the definition of heritage tree as written here in this recommendation, item number 3.
I second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Jay?
So item 4, the wording may be not perfect, but the basic idea is to remove a loophole that's in the ordinance right now that allows you to remove, for example, a protected tree from your front yard and replace it with 3 cherry laurels, for example, if you have a utility line in the backyard within 20 feet of that utility line. That's the way it's currently in the ordinance, and that loophole is being used. And in the comments of the survey, there were several people that pointed that out. So we're recommending changing the criteria for planting alternatives to protective trees. That's from the utility setback tree list, that second list, to limit it only to protected trees removed from areas 20 feet from a utility line. So if you remove a 12-inch oak from 20 feet from the utility line, if you have one, you can replace it with trees from that alternate list, okay? But if you remove a protected tree, 12-inch oak, from your side yard setbacks or your front yard setbacks, they're not within 20 feet of a utility line, they have to be replaced with protected tree species. So the wording that we're proposing is in the green there. For protected trees removed from within 20 feet of an above-ground power cable or telephone line, the following species can be used for replacement. And that comes below that list, you know, of alternate trees. These species cannot be used to replace a protected tree removed from areas that are not 20 feet from an above-ground power cable or telephone line.
Good.
So,
I think we need to get that list here, or at least a reference to that list, because it,
Well, they do have access to the code, and
oh, right.
and I have the exact section where we're talking about. We could present with this list the areas of the code that we're talking about.
I think it's helpful just to see, just for reference, just quick reference.
Like the listing of the trees.
Yeah.
So that we
I will,
not having to.
I will tell you, if we get the Forest Service here, they're gonna say, strike out live oak from your, available list, cause we don't wanna see you plant any more live oak, cause they're gonna die of, oak wilt.
I don't think that's
I don't-
correct.
No,
That's what, when they've come before, they said, if you've had it, don't put it there again, so.
they're
Well-
the best tree we've got.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
not,
truly, they're the
I-
most,
well, they can survive
Yeah.
Texas weather
Yeah.
and,
and cold, they survive everything,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But
They
I'm-
want us to plant ash junipers.
No, they wanted red oak is what they kept saying.
Which are terrible in a drought,
Okay.
yeah, anyway.
I think with regard to what you were just saying, having the list there,
Mhm.
at the primary protected trees and then the alternate trees would be a useful thing to include in whatever documentation is being presented, so that everybody knows that that's what we're talking about, or that you're talking about.
Directly in this document, or as a,
exhibit.
Well, we could have it as a separate item.
I mean, I would just have the tree ordinance as a separate item then.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So they can just refer to it.
But
And as
my,
we go along.
I guess my point is, you know what you're saying here when you're
Right.
talking about the protected trees and the alternate
Mhm.
trees, right? You know, and not everybody else does.
Right.
And so whenever you're saying, well, they're going to the alternate list, you know, to meet the requirement, because they can put it up underneath the electric lines, and that meets the requirement that with, as a loophole, well, it'd be nice somehow to have, okay, well, what are those ones? And you say,
Sure.
well, they're crepe myrtles, and they're,
Sure. I'm just thinking of the best way to present that.
could be a separate document,
Okay.
okay?
With just those two lists, not the whole ordinance.
Yeah, just the trees.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just, it'll just help make the discussion go a little smoother,
Okay.
okay?
So the two tree lists. Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
So, with that, we have talked about that. Are we happy with this proposal here, proposal number 4?
I'll make a motion that we submit, item 4 for approval to the, P and Z.
Okay. Got a
I'll
motion?
second.
Okay, got a motion, got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No, okay, motion carries, and 4 carries. All right. Jay?
Number 5, this is a new definition for a critical root zone. That is the area around a tree with a radius of 1 foot for every inch in diameter. The critical root zone, the exact wording that we're proposing is critical root zone means an area around the trunk with a radius of 1 foot for every inch of trunk diameter. No construction or disturbance shall occur within an area that constitutes more than 50% of the total critical root zone, or 1/2 the radial distance of the critical root zone for each tree being preserved as a protected tree or heritage tree. And this definition does come right from
City of Austin.
City of Austin ordinance, yeah. With,
Those exact words? Okay.
Pretty much.
pretty much.
With that, if you talk to an arborist, they're gonna tell you that's what it requires for it to
That's good,
survive.
that's
So
fine. Yeah, I mean, they're good words.
There's no politics involved in that, that's just biology.
Okay. So. Okay.
Now, so we have a tree that's on the lot line. And it extends, it's got a large canopy, and it extends over on both lots.
Mhm.
And, it's not on my land. It's on your side of the line. But I'm gonna have to, restrict my building because of that. I'm not fussing at that, I wanna get my arms around it.
So who's applying for the building permit?
Let's say that I'm applying for the building permit,
Okay,
but that tree's not on my land.
but the critical root zone is on your land.
Critical root zone
Okay.
may be on my land. That's because, well,
Well, technically, you shouldn't be building there anyway, because that's within the setback.
but let's just say that, it's a big tree.
Okay.
Okay,
It's got a
really-
big canopy.
Really big tree.
Yeah,
And,
Maybe it's a heritage.
I think so, and I think that there's an obligation to protect it on both sides of the
and,
fence.
well, let's just do it a little different way. My, service easement runs down that property line.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna be putting a new service line down that property line. So I'm gonna violate that critical root zone because it's in the service easement. If I do that.
I think in that case, you'd have to get a variance, but the variances like that are granted.
You know.
Yeah, well, you make, once that easement is in, that becomes a matter of whose rights, right? And the easement grants rights.
Well, if it was a gas line easement, then that's a third party, but I mean, if it's City of Rollingwood, if it's our service easement, you still own that land.
Sure you do.
And remember, that service line is yours, it's not the City of Rollingwood's.
It may be. That service line, I know that we have water that comes on our easement behind our house. That water does not serve us. It goes somewhere, but it's not ours.
Well, but that's not, that's just a water line.
That's a water line,
But
yeah.
we have those too,
Sure,
but I'm
sure.
just thinking,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to,
This is a good question, yeah.
well,
I'm-
we've gone through these before,
Mhm.
where we've had problems with that, and that's what I'm thinking is
Yeah.
that people will jump up and down that.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we resolve them, kinda how we're gonna approach that, I think it's better to do it that way. So,
Do you have any suggestions?
well, I think that if it is that would not go, and I don't think he left. I don't think that would go to get a variance. I think that would probably go to the city council.
What's the question?
Well, where I put my service line,
Your water line?
yeah, just the service line to the house. Or sewer line.
You're asking like the plan.
If it goes over somebody's critical root zone of a tree on their property.
Not on my property.
I think it would, well, it depends, cause I think these tree requirements would be in the zoning code from my understanding, but I don't know about the service lines, those are probably in a utilities section. So that would have to be something we would have to
Yeah.
try to understand how we would apply that.
It's a good question.
I think that
Yeah.
you get down to, the basic deal is, the problem we've had in getting tree ordinances passed, and let me tell you, the one we have, even though it's, I call it a tree ordinance light, cause it is a very light tree ordinance. The previous 3 times that we tried to get a tree ordinance failed. Cause the population, our populace that came in and fussed at it and said, you're taking my rights away from building on my lot, you're taking my rights, you're giving rights to my neighbor because of his tree, and then we, I mean, there's some crazy stuff that came in, but this is,
Well, let's brainstorm here. What do we do with this? Let's presume that that it isn't handled anywhere else.
and David, let me interrupt 1 second.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a, utility easement.
Yeah.
It can be where you are gonna place your drainage criteria manual, where it would have to be based on the topography of the lot.
Right.
That would come in on that. And, I don't think this is insurmountable, but I think we have to have, we get to that, and Jay, you're right, there needs to be a regulatory body that says, okay, this is an instance where you don't have alternatives, you have to do it, so, do it in a gentle way, or the best way possible. But I'm not sure it's, Board of Adjustment,
Or city council.
and even
So, and I know we've talked a little bit about, requiring a variance to city council or something like that.
Yeah.
I would need to double check the exact specifics, but as we've been working through this with the commercial corridor, we have been advised that, if it's in the zoning code and you're giving it variance-like criteria, that needs to go to the Board of Adjustment. And so it can go to the Board of Adjustment as a special exception, which is something I think we're gonna talk about later in the evening. But you can put, all the criteria you want on it, but it does need to go to the Board of Adjustment, not to the city council, and so.
So we might handle this, what this discussion is leading to, we might handle that with a special exception, which would mean someone would need to roll on it.
The Board of Adjustment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so that would be the way this gets taken care of, right?
Well, I gotta tell you, special exceptions are a different animal, cause, there's some positions, which I don't agree with, but there's some positions in, that says special exceptions should be not designed to carry forth into the future, because if you have a special exception, you're going to, then you're not fixing the problems that are there. And, I don't know how you go back on a city like Rollingwood, where 80% of us are not in compliance with, all the regulations. Alex, you might be, Jay, you might be, I'm not.
I would agree kind of with that idea where you don't want something where it's a very frequent thing that people are going to get special
Yeah.
exceptions, because then that just means you should probably
Right,
change your code
right,
and make it,
Right. But
apply.
but we have, okay, what's being
We-
recommended here is a critical root zone definition that has, no way around it right now. I mean, this is it. This is the critical root zone discussion. Regardless of where it sits anywhere in the world, this is critical root zone, and these are the things you can't do to it, right? Not allowed to do stuff to this thing, all right? So if it sits this way, it seems to me that you can't touch your neighbor's critical root zone. The tree that it belongs to your neighbor now has rights that extend into your property. That's what the way it reads to me, which might be good or might not be. And what we need to say is, okay, if that is not the case, then we would need to come up with a special exception that handles it.
Well, I don't know about the critical root zone part as for the special exception. Particularly, I don't know how you would, and we might need to go back and get some understanding of how you would handle if it's on someone else's lot. I mean, you know, you aren't being asked to get a tree survey of someone else's lot before you do.
Just so y'all know, the reason, Jay, that I brought that up is it happened on Inwood. We had that issue come up.
There was no, as far as a critical root zone?
Recently,
Well, I wouldn't say recently, 10 years ago,
Oh,
maybe,
okay.
that they were killing my tree.
Mhm.
It wasn't a regulatory deal, it was a neighbor versus neighbor
Sure.
issue.
Yeah.
It came up and said, look,
Yeah.
I'm building on my lot,
Mhm.
and the person says, hey, if you put this, and I think it was a drainage issue.
Yeah.
If you put it there, you'll kill my tree.
Right.
And that's why I did, when I
No, it's a good question.
was
It's
thinking
what-
about
it's what
that.
we need to.
And I think what ended up happening on that is they got, the arborist came in and said, you can go down X feet without killing.
Okay.
I don't know if the tree died or not, to be real honest, but we got it resolved. And they built the house, but, you know, I don't know what, we have to be really, cognizant that when we're making regulations that people don't have any control over on their lot.
Mhm.
That's why we have never gotten our tree ordinance
Sure.
approved in the past.
Sure,
Shane.
sure.
And I pushed for it, and I'll just let you know, cause I thought the greater good and, you know, for Rollingwood was trees, frankly.
Right.
But it got turned down, I mean, pitchforks and burning tar, a couple times.
How was this neighbor to neighbor resolved?
We got an arborist that came up with a plan to save the tree and to build the engineers reevaluated the drainage structure and tried to get around that. It had to go down a little distance, but not enough that they concluded would damage the tree's health.
And why isn't that possible in a scenario where the critical root zone extends into your neighbor's property and they want to do construction across the critical root zone?
They may. I'm just saying it's an engineering issue and an arborist issue as to whether or not that works. But the initial reaction you're gonna get is, so you're letting my neighbor use part of my property, have rights on my property. And that got pretty contentious. Now, you know, the truth of the matter is, we all have that because we have requirements for drainage, that I can't artificially put water on your property. So I mean, that's the same thing to me.
It's gonna come up with every issue like lighting. You're putting lighting on my property. and
Absolutely.
infringing
bug
my
spray,
rights.
mosquito spray.
Yeah, mosquito spray, and,
Well,
I mean,
there's-
there is other ways, but I'm trying to, I just don't want us to go through this and then get poured out.
Okay.
So I'd like to address the issues that we've had, that I've seen come up over the years.
Okay. Well, these words come from an ordinance for the city of Austin. Is the city of Austin ordinance, does it address
I'm
any of that?
looking
We
here.
think it might go into that detail,
I don't
but
see anything about neighbors,
Okay.
but what other question are you looking for?
I-
This definition?
Let me make a suggestion on that might work. That we have if it extends, if the critical root zone extends over into my lot, I'm not building, you're building, but, it's on my lot. That we have can we have a different set of criteria if the tree is not on your lot and having a critical root zone? Where you could get and the other part about this is they were close to litigation over this issue, which I don't know how in the hell that would have worked out. But I mean, if you have a tree that's growing its critical root zone onto my property, and that's preventing me from using my property the way I want to, I think that our attorney is gonna get bent out of shape a bit.
Well, if you have branches over a fence that are coming into your
Yeah.
property, you have the right to cut those branches off.
That's right.
That's right.
Do you have
okay.
the right to do it if it would kill the tree?
Well, I don't, I think
Not
you do.
you.
I think you do, yes. I think if this thing, if branches are coming across your fence and they're a problem for you, you can cut them off clean. Now, will it kill the tree? Probably won't.
I think
But my
there's something in
question
the
is, what
ordinance,
if
you
it
cannot
does?
trim more than 25% of a tree
But
canopy.
it's not your tree.
My question is,
Anybody can.
if you're trimming somebody else's tree,
Yeah.
kills their tree.
Yeah.
You got me. I do not know the answer to that,
You know?
and
It's just gonna be civil,
Okay.
yeah.
but I will tell you that,
That
you
way.
know, goal one of
Mhm.
local government is to make sure that we don't have our neighbors fighting with each other.
Mhm.
We built a
But-
support to hold up
Yeah.
our neighbor's tree branch.
You can come up with
And
an
just 'cause
exception
it
in
was-
everything we've talked about, like building heights.
I know,
You're
Jay.
shading my house, you know.
Yeah. I know. I just, the reason I'm so touchy on the trees is I failed, a couple times in, getting an ordinance done.
And it's possible that this particular one might not fly,
Yeah.
but
I
I
hope
think
it
we
does,
should
frankly.
try to see if it flies before we start.
Well, I think, again,
Well, this is just
we
a
wanna have
definition.
answers to the questions whenever it comes up. If this is going before P and Z and then City Council,
Well, let me
and
ask,
someone asks the question, just wait, Tom said, you know, what are you gonna do in this particular case? We gotta have an answer.
Yeah, and I think
Can't
we
be, well, I don't
can
know.
do some research on that
Okay.
as
Let-
far
let me
as
ask
how
you,
the city
Ashley,
handles
how do you
that.
think Charlie would do? He's our attorney. I mean, I'm just, you know, because they're going to follow his lead on some of this, if I say that.
I don't generally try to guess what Charlie
Well, that's true. I
Well,
shouldn't.
then-
That
then-
was a
then-
bad. That was a
Well,
bad move.
then maybe
I'm
that's the
sorry.
whole, well, he's probably gonna be here, right? Will he
Let-
be here in an hour?
No, he won't be here.
No.
He won't be, will there be council? There
No,
will not be,
not
okay. all right.
Jay, I think the answer is we have to have a reasonable way of recourse for me as a owner to utilize to say, look, I have to go to Board of Adjustment or the City Council to make sure that I get either. I hate the special exception because I will tell you they're not going to use that very often because that's going to get old in a hurry. A variance either by the City Council, which I don't believe this is going to be a building issue, and I don't think it's going to be a zoning. I'm not sure where they're going to put it.
For trees.
Yeah,
Well, for the commercial,
I know, but that
drafted in the zoning section.
yeah.
So that's my assumption is that it would also go in zoning.
If it does, then that's going to go to City Council.
A variance would go to Board of Adjustment. A variance or a special exception would go.
Not a zoning.
Yeah,
Could I
Okay.
make a suggestion?
yeah.
What we're doing is voting these items kind of up or down, whether we want to present it to P and Z.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
If in fact you think it won't go anywhere if we don't add recourse wordage or adage, then we should just vote this down at this point and not present it at this point.
I'm willing to submit it, but I'm just, my point is, we better be, I
I
do
hear
not
you,
want it
yeah.
to, I think it's important for Rolling Wood that we have a stronger tree ordinance. And I would do what it takes to try to get that approved. And just having
Yeah.
tripped a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that that is the objective, is that everything that we're doing is sort of providing more education and awareness.
Yeah,
And ultimately, yes, probably somebody can litigate their way to doing exactly what they want to do on their property, but at least putting it out there, you know, lets people know, hey, we're trying to protect, you know, our trees.
yeah,
So.
I'm 100% in favor of
Yeah.
that, I'll just tell you this.
The subcommittee hears you, and we're gonna, between now and the P and Z meeting, we're gonna do some research, right? And find out what
Okay.
sort of, what can we add to this, or ammunition can we have to, you know, support this. But I would make a motion that we approve item number 5 as written.
It sounds like a motion.
Ashley, before we get
I didn't have anything super great to say. I was just planning on saying if there's, you know, don't feel pressure to have specific language necessarily for every single thing you want to do. If there's just something that, hey, we really think something needs to be done here, we don't exactly know what, that can be a recommendation that goes to city council,
Sure.
and then we can work with planners or people
Yeah.
who have, you know, other experience. So just feel free to,
Yes.
you know, pass those on in that way. That would work too.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, we have a motion, and we have a second, I believe.
I have a second.
Okay, and so if there's is there any other discussion around this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Uh,
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carry 4-0. Stays in.
Okay.
Okay, very good. It's moving along.
Item number 6 is redefine the definition of city arborist that's currently in the ordinance and use 13 times to indicate review, approve, or implement all tree removal permits. We're proposing that the definition for city arborist used throughout would be amended to include a city official. And the exact wording that we came up with is, city arborist means an ISA certified arborist or an administrator or designated officer of the city appointed by the city council to perform the duties of the city arborist when a certified arborist is not available.
I don't see any problem with that.
Let me, staff, since y'all are gonna be appointed,
I don't necessarily see an issue with it. The only thing is, you know, there may be a desire from council to have consistency in certain terms so that, you know, it's not one person one day and someone else another day. But I think, I mean, if the city council has to, you know, formally name them, I think that could be okay.
I see this as doing nothing more than giving city council the latitude to act in the absence of a city arborist.
In other words, gives them permission to do what they're
Right.
currently doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Because it does say city arborist now, and that's not
Yeah.
what they are.
We have contract arborists, I will say, but
But
we
it's-
contract with one, but we just don't have one on staff, so.
So,
Yet.
I'll make a motion to approve
Go
that, to submit as written to the P and Z.
okay,
I second the motion.
okay. Any more discussion around this item? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes carry 4-0. Okay.
No ways to go. 7, we suggest removing sections D and E of section 107.372, which is this involved program where you could get trees planted, replacement trees planted somewhere else other than on your property. And the references there were corrected by Ms. Batillo. Got the right numbers in there now. So we believe all protected trees and heritage trees removed from a lot should be replaced on that lot unless a variance is obtained to replant elsewhere.
I'll make a motion to approve, to, submit item number 7 as written to, P and Z.
Okay. I'll second that.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 8 is removal of heritage trees would require a separate heritage tree removal permit that can only be approved by a majority of the city council. And I think this is where you're saying that maybe would be better as Board of Adjustment.
I'll just say that that's the direction we have been given as we're working through the commercial one, is that you know, it can't just be an arbitrary approval by the city council, and then when it's in the zoning code, those should go to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
And so currently, the way the commercial one is written, is it needs to be a special exception that has specific, you know, reasons for criteria for approval, and it would go to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay. Okay.
Now, so what, this would be a special exception rather than a variance?
Mm-hmm. I know how you feel about special
I
exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
would,
Well, we're saying the permit itself has to be approved by the Board of Adjustment.
So I guess I can just, I'll read you what this language here. So this is from the commercial code draft.
yeah.
Prohibition on the removal of heritage trees. Removal of a heritage tree is prohibited unless a heritage tree removal special exception is granted under subsection 6, or, so there's also, or if a certified arborist can confirm that it's dead, it's an imminent hazard to life, or its disease and restoration is not practicable. But the criteria that are put on the special exception is all reasonable efforts have been made to avoid removing the tree. The location of the tree precludes all reasonable access to the property or all reasonable use of the property. And the removal of the tree is not based on a condition caused by the method or design chosen by the applicant to develop the property. So they put, you know, very particular criteria in place that now the Board of Adjustment would have to make those specific findings before they would approve the removal. So I guess in essence, yes, it is the permit for removal of a heritage tree.
And that term reasonable, that actually passes muster?
Generally, when those terms are more often, I guess, used in a Board of Adjustment sense. They
Okay.
have, that's sometimes a criteria that they would
All right.
be
So
judging.
they are the ones who are determining what is or is not reasonable.
Right.
So
Okay.
they're not approving the permit itself, just the special exception requested.
Right, so basically that special exception, if approved, then the city would be authorized, staff would be authorized to
And-
give them a
And
permit to
so
do it.
what's the process for that to happen? Is it you just go to a Board of Adjustment meeting, or how do you do this?
It would be full special exception the way we currently have it. So there's noticing requirements to neighboring properties, they have to put a sign in the yard. This Board of Adjustment is made aware of the requirements of the criteria, and then they would hold a hearing, a public hearing, and then,
So this particular thing would need to be amended to say something like would require a special exception that can only be approved by a majority of the Board of Adjustment, and that would solve this problem?
Oh, I gotta tell you, I think the this should be a city council vote rather than a Board of Adjustment vote. And I think we would pass muster with the attorneys on that.
again, I wouldn't feel too caught up in having to say exactly, but I think just saying enough that we think special permission should be required before this
Yeah.
is done. We don't think
Yeah.
it should just be allowed.
That's
And
right.
then you can put that, you know, to P and Z and city council to talk about
Yeah.
what that actually is. And in the meantime, we can get clarification from the attorneys on.
Well, we're sort of saying that when we say removal of a heritage tree would require a separate heritage tree removal permit that can only be approved by a majority vote of the city council or Board of Adjustment, whichever one we vote on.
Well,
And then it's, do we have to spell out the special exception
I
part?
think you could just say, you could just maybe add, vote of the city council or Board of Adjustment or,
yeah.
you know, applicable.
Let me make a motion. Removal of heritage trees will require a separate heritage tree removal permit that can only be approved by the appropriate, city council, city, gosh, what would that be? Governing body, that'll do
I
it.
don't know, I guess I'm trying to think of Board of Adjustment. I think the point will come across to city council about the requirement.
Okay.
Well,
But I think-
is the development department a governing body or no?
No,
Okay,
no, definitely not.
okay. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm having some, you
Well,
know,
we could
there's a big
say
difference.
either
be-
the city
yeah.
council or, Board of Adjustment, whichever is applicable.
That would
yeah,
work too. That way we can, if we rule out one based on, legal requirements, then the other one fits, so I think that would be.
I'm gonna be interested when Charlie gets into special sessions.
I
Well, yeah.
I would like to see this go just the way that it's written.
That can happen too.
I'm okay
That's
with
allowed.
that.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah, all right.
And I feel like we've kind of already
And then someone
gone
can tell
through
us that
all of
that's not
this,
right.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we
it's
have
sorta
gone through
just-
this once before, so.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
I will tell you, I think, when you take a heritage tree out of Rolling Wood, that is part of all of us.
Yeah,
Wherever it is, it's still part of us,
Yeah.
and the city council should vote on it.
Okay.
I like having a voted-in representative make
Me
this
too.
determination, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Okay?
So,
So,
I'll make a motion to approve this as, the way it's written.
are you
and
amending your motion to,
I'll withdraw that motion.
Withdraw
and
that?
Submit another one.
Okay.
Cause I'll never remember what the hell I said the first time, Jay. I'll make a motion that we submit the, item number 8 as written to P and Z for approval.
You're up.
I second the motion.
okay. We have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All
So-
opposed? Nope. Carries.
After going through all that, y'all were right the first time, Jay.
Not necessarily, but we'll see what flies.
It's good to have that it was very useful, I think.
Number 9, protected trees. That's the ones 12 to 24 inches in diameter removed from the buildable area must be replaced by one protected species tree. Okay, so that's where it says, the buildable area removal of protected trees have to be only replaced by one. And we're changing that to replacement of a heritage tree removed from the buildable area with city council approval must be replaced with one tree 6 inches in diameter or more for every 12 inches in diameter of removed tree. And I gave an example there. I'm not sure that would be in the ordinance itself. This is brand new because we said we would look for it, and that is to determine the diameter of a multi-trunk tree, measure all the trunks, add the total diameter of the largest trunk to 1/2 the diameter of each additional trunk. And that's right out of the City of Austin ordinance on how to deal with multi-trunk trees.
Yeah. Is there, and do we talk about the height at which that's measured? Is it, I
The
think
heritage tree definition.
same definition applies, that it's 4.5 feet? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure.
Oh, I see, the multi-trunk definition?
Y-
Yeah, we should put at
Yeah.
4.5 feet
Well,
above.
and the definition of there's not a height requirement to be a multi-trunk tree, it could just be clearly all from the same.
4.5 feet above
I'm
natural
thinking
grade.
specifically, there's a tree that looks slated for removal, and it's a multi-trunk, but only starting from about, 2 feet off the ground.
And I think we
Below.
didn't cover in this heritage trees removed from setback areas specifically.
Well,
What,
I think,
I have a question around the multi-trunk. is the multi-trunk the way this is defined is you've got it starting from 12 to 24 inches. Will multi-trunk measurements get you to 12 inches? Or if none of those trunks are 12 inches, it doesn't count?
So,
I think.
you
yeah.
take a tree, and
Yeah.
if you measure, it's a multi-trunk tree, and
Yeah.
if you measure the main trunk,
Yeah,
and that's
not 12
12,
inches.
not 12 inches,
It's not 12 inches.
and then the other two are less than 12 inches,
Yes.
and you don't get to 24, then it's not a heritage tree, right?
Well,
But is it a
but it's a
protected
protected tree, yeah.
if
It
it's
is a
not
protect-
12 inches?
Is it,
If multi-trunk trees, if the total adds up to 12 inches, then it's a protected tree.
okay, it's not, yeah, that needs to be said, if that's the case.
No,
We've only been talking about
add the diameter of the largest
heritage
trunk.
trees.
What are your dimensions you're talking about?
Yeah, well, the dimension, whenever we talk about protected trees, a protected tree has to be 12 inches in diameter.
Right,
That's protected, okay?
okay.
Now, if it's a 10-inch trunk,
A
but
multi-trunk tree.
it's a multi-trunk tree,
Right.
does it count as a protected tree?
Yeah, because you add
Well,
the 10 inches to
but
half
that
of the
doesn't,
others.
but it doesn't say that now.
Yes, it does.
Well,
To determine the diameter of a multi-trunk tree, measure all the trunks. Add the diameter of the largest trunk to half the diameter of each additional trunk.
okay, well, then that would say that if you have a 6-inch tree,
Mm-hmm.
You have
you can have two other 6-inch to make
Trunks.
trunks, and together they make a 12-inch tree.
That's right. Then it's protected.
Now, a 6-inch tree's only that big. Is that a protected tree?
6-inch trunk,
6-inch trunk, right?
and then you have two 6-inch trunks.
That's
and you
right.
only take half
Okay,
that. That's
all
3
right.
inches.
Yeah.
So 6 plus 3 plus 3
I-
equals
I
12.
tell you, this is a big deal.
So
What
you've
we're-
got-
what we're doing here. This is a big deal
well,
now.
and I think
Yeah.
it might be worth considering that you have to
Yeah.
you have to meet the definition of a protected tree with at least one of them, potentially. So you need to have a 12-inch tree to start, maybe?
That's not what Jay is saying.
I know, but I'm suggesting
And that's not what this says. It says
Yeah,
a multi-trunk tree is one tree.
Right.
It's not 3 trees.
That's right.
okay.
So, and to determine the diameter of that one tree,
Yes.
you'd go through this formula. So if you have 12 inches and, 6 inches and 6 inches and 6 inches,
Yeah.
the diameter of that tree
Yeah.
is, by this definition, 12 inches.
Okay. Then I believe that needs to be said somewhere in the protected tree definition. That's what it means. Whenever you get into
Well, I think
protected tree, you're talking about a 12-inch tree.
I think going 1/2 is very generous.
It is.
I mean, I think that's a fair way to look at it. You gotta do it somewhere fair. I don't know how many triple trunk trees we have. Well, I'm sure we have some.
There are actually a lot,
There's probably more of those than there are single trunk.
but I'm having a hard time
Yeah.
saying that just because they add up to 12 inches makes it a 12-inch tree, because the perception is it's not that mature of a tree. Just because they're growing from the same base, they haven't been growing that long. I mean, you could argue that some of the trees are multi-trunk underground, we just don't see
Well,
it.
then the solution to that is you don't protect multi-trunk trees.
You do protect multi-trunk
If
trees.
If
Tongue
one
twister.
trunk is 12 inches or more.
Or I think you might raise the bar a little bit on what a multi-trunk tree should be. It's a tongue twister. I'm just suggesting it, not
Yeah,
for argument's sake.
a 6-inch tree is not that old.
A
No matter
6-inch
even-
trunk you're
A
saying.
6-inch trunk, yeah, a 6-inch trunk is
No.
not that old.
That's not. But a multi-trunk tree that adds up to 18 inches, 6, 6, and 6 is an old tree.
No, I don't think it
I don't think
is.
those trunks all grow at the same time.
If you don't want to protect it, you don't want to protect
Well,
it. So
Well,
it's-
you know, we just have to nail it down. You know, it's not a matter, because I think that it will be a big deal whenever people start saying, you know, okay, well, you know, I have this 6-inch tree over here, and then right next to it there's 3 trees, or a triple tree that is also 6 inches, they're the same age effectively. You know, and I'm allowed to take this one out, and I don't have to do anything about that because it's not a protected tree. But this one I'm not allowed to take out, it's all of a sudden it's a protected tree.
How are we looking at canopies? Cause the canopy on a triple tree is gonna be pretty daggone significant.
Yeah, well,
See,
Yes, it will.
might be a point there.
we don't. There are no regulations in the current ordinance dealing with canopies.
I know, but that's how I look at trees,
Yeah.
is, that's what I kinda, look at from the standpoint of that. I think
If this
we,
is controversial, I would just take out the multi-trunk definition and keep doing whatever we've been doing with multi-trunk trees, which
what
is,
have we been doing?
I think, measure them
What do you think?
individually, right? Yeah.
Individually?
Nikki, in your training, have you come across this? Do you have any thoughts on this? Sorry.
okay, yeah.
Have to turn it on and off. Not necessarily. So a lot of what I have been learning is what trees are and how they grow and all these different things, not necessarily the different measurements of how we measure them. I definitely do think just the fact that we don't have something currently in our code with multi-trunks, I think it would be a good idea to say we would like the definition of that and then determine that somehow, but at least have that idea going forward. Hey, we don't have this definition. We'd like this definition put in, and then we can build off of that. But that is definitely something multi-trunks is not currently in our code.
And how are you
And
dealing with that?
personally-
You have a multi-trunk tree, an oak tree that one trunk is 12 inches in diameter and the other 2 are 6 and 6. What can they cut down?
They can cut it all down.
They can cut
You
it
can
all.
you can cut anything down.
Well,
now.
okay, what do they have to replace it with
When they replace it, it's based on the 12-inch.
on the 12-inch?
What I
Which is,
would suggest is that we have the main trunk of 12 inches be the deciding factor as to whether or not it's a heritage tree, or I should say protected tree, and then building on that to establish whether or not it might be a heritage tree because the other trunks give it a 24-inch total girth or diameter.
that's different from what I consider a heritage tree, Dave.
Okay.
I think that the trees potentially should have a minimum diameter before you start adding them,
Yeah.
like some combination of the definition. I agree that we need a definition and I agree that they need protection, but I'm worried that this one seems like it's not going to pass. And
Well,
I
you
don't
can
wanna get
always
tripped up on it.
Take that forward with that information
Yeah.
and then get it passed, and then at that point, we've got something to go off of.
Mhm.
You can start working with the planners on definitions. How do we want to carry this forward?
Mhm.
How are other cities doing that? And
Mhm.
that way y'all can kind of collaborate, but
Mhm.
things start to move forward and you're not stuck in the bushes
Mhm.
of things.
Yeah.
And then you
Good
can
idea.
We're stuck
have
in
the
the
professionals who do write those codes already know what they're gonna put in there.
So David, I'll make a motion that, we, approve item number 9, with the, addition that the, where the heck did it go? Multi, trunk trees, measurement will be determined determined, at a later date. Multi-trunk tree measurement criteria will be determined at a later date. Would that get you through to what you need?
Yes.
That's all I care about.
Oh, okay.
Cause I think the first part is fine, and
Yeah.
all we're dealing with is a multi-tree, and we don't have
It's, yeah, what,
that's gonna
everything
be-
is okay up until to determine the diameter of a multi-trunk tree.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I said that'll be determined at a later date.
That's a motion. Do we have a
My
second?
motion.
Anybody else?
Since we have.
Just in the interest of moving on, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Jay.
All right. Any other discussion around that?
Could I just ask for it to be determined at a later date? Is that gonna be back to this committee to discuss at a later date? Or
Yeah.
I would like to get moved
Yeah,
on for
you're
the
right.
next?
Yeah.
I would like for it to move to P and Z and city council to determine how they do that.
Okay.
So
You don't wanna do that?
why
No,
wouldn't we just
no,
submit
no, that
this
guy's-
as
yeah.
is then and let them?
That's like damning it.
I'm all right with that too.
Yeah.
Cause I think, what you're bringing up is there is a trunk area, and we just need to make sure they understand that we have some issues about how to
Let's,
measure that.
I'll tell you what, why don't we, motion it to cut it off right there? And maybe we have a second multi-trunk proposal. Just a whole, that starts with to determine the diameter of a multi-trunk tree, you know, and so that at least we can get the first part passed, and and the second part, maybe it won't pass. But if we have it in one, the whole thing won't pass,
Okay,
right?
that sounds
Why
reasonable.
don't we take it and turn it into
I'm
two
all right with
things?
that.
How's that?
I'm all right with that.
Yeah,
Okay,
all right?
I'll amend my,
So,
I'll withdraw my
right.
motion.
Okay, do you wanna motion then?
That we, item number 9, we go as written up to the point, where where it says to determine the diameter of a multi-trunk tree.
All right, we have a motion,
I second that motion.
okay. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? No. Ayes have it, okay. Let's stay with it. I'm gonna make a motion, well, I gotta wait for Alex to come back. I can't do it. What I wanna do is I wanna make a motion that says, okay, we're gonna make a separate item out of this thing from this point on, okay?
Yeah, just separate, item 9A or whatever,
9A if you like, sure.
to
you know,
determine
we'll
the,
do that,
and then we
okay?
just put that definition.
And that can go forward or it doesn't, but,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
all right.
It wouldn't hurt to just add measured at 4.5 feet above natural grade
Okay, all right,
in your motion.
I'll do it. I don't make very many motions, Jay, so.
Well, I can make a motion then.
You can make the motion,
Okay.
okay?
We still get to do it.
Yeah, I know, do, but I like to see everybody's names in the minutes.
Wait, did you make a motion?
No.
We did not, no, you can't do it yet.
You
We
were
had to wait,
appointed as
yeah, we
chaplain.
didn't have a quorum while you were gone.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm gonna make a motion that, we insert a new item into these recommendations, and call it 9B, and that is to determine the diameter of a multi-trunk tree, the rest of that sentence, and then it adds measured at 4.5 feet above natural grade. Should I read the
Okay.
whole sentence, or is
No,
that?
I think-
Okay.
okay, we have a motion, do we have a
Oh.
second?
I'll second it.
Second, okay, motion's, okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're good, ayes carry. All right, thank
Okay.
you.
I don't wanna take up the whole time we have.
I was gonna
but-
say,
No, no, no.
quick question, if you had mentioned that the multi-trunk was something that was added that we hadn't discussed yet.
Right.
Is there anything else here that we haven't discussed, and should we maybe
No.
make a motion to approve the remaining set, or?
I'm all right with that.
Oh, let's take a look here,
Okay.
yeah.
Item number 10, we all voted and agreed on that if a heritage tree straddled the boundary between a setback and a buildable area, it would be considered a setback area if it was 25% or more of the trunk was in the setback area.
Okay. I make a motion to approve item 10 as written.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? No, okay.
Uh,
Moving on.
Number 11, an application for a tree removal permit must include a tree survey that shows all trees that are at least 12 inches in diameter, 4.5 feet above natural grade, and indicate the critical root zone of these trees as well.
Okay.
We all agreed.
I make a motion to approve item 11 as written.
And I second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on.
We inserted a statement under purposes section that the site plan and project design will preserve the existing natural character of the landscape and retention of protected trees as much as possible.
I'll make a motion to approve that as written.
Okay.
Okay, I second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, ayes carry.
This one had a lot of discussion, but I think we agreed to keep it, change the maximum number of replacement trees from 7 to unlimited, no matter what the size of the lot.
Good.
And
This
they-
is-
go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve that as written.
Okay,
I'll
I
sec-
second.
Okay.
Please, Alex.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carry.
14 is change the requirement for replacement of protected trees removed from the setback area to 2 replacement trees for each removed. And that was the subject of the letter from Ms. Patella and our explanation of why we reduced it from 3 to 1 to 2 to 1. And the committee had approved that change, and hopefully that she was satisfied with that explanation.
Okay. So do we need a motion around this?
Yeah, I
Okay.
make a motion that we approve item 13 as stated.
And I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carry.
14 was also an issue, but we decided to change the requirement for replacement of protected trees removed from the setback area to 2 replacement trees for each removed. And I have to correct myself. That was the item that Ms. Patella wanted us to consider, changing it from 3 to 1 to 2 to 1.
I'll make a motion to approve that as written.
Wait, how is 15 different from 11?
No, we're
No,
looking at 14.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Actually, I think she mentioned both.
I
But,
made-
Okay.
Yeah.
I made a motion.
You made a motion, I second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes
Okay.
carry. Moving along.
Now up to 15.
Who was our, I'm sorry, who was our second on that?
I did, I seconded it. Okay.
Thank you.
Item 15, development application requirements must include a tree survey indicating the location of all protected and heritage trees together with their critical root zone. A protection plan must be submitted for these trees to include evidence that sufficient care must be demonstrated to ensure survival of these protected trees, including adequate watering before and during construction. And that was actually
That's
your,
right.
your deal. So maybe the first part of the statement,
There seems
Is
like some overlap.
a
with-
repeating, but
Gotcha.
where it falls in the code, under development application requirements,
Got it.
we're just kind of restating that.
I make a motion to approve
And I'll
item
second.
number 15.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Good.
16, all replacement trees must survive for at least 3 years, and the city arborist or other suitable city employee shall, back to item 6, shall keep track of these replacements so that at 3 years post-planting, their survival and health can be assessed.
Can y'all do that? There we go.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 16.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nope, ayes carried.
And the last three are really not code changes. It's just that we recommend the city website be updated or amended so that residents can easily access the up-to-date list of approved and permitted tree service vendors and how a preferred vendor can obtain the currently no-cost permit from the city. You okay with that? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve those 3 as written.
The 3 recommendations.
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Just so you know, I don't know that there'll be a lot of appetite for the number 18 with city council. The discussion about commemorative trees has been had at city council, and there's a lot of folks that don't want it, Brolywood to become a memorial park. So,
Okay, and that is under consideration though by
Right.
the Parks Commission.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
anyway,
I would, Mr. Chairman, I'd suggest that we table item number 6, and I'd like to go 8 if we have 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
Wait, okay,
Could
yeah.
we just maybe do the lighting subcommittee membership part of that?
Oh, I'm
Item?
sorry, yes.
okay,
Yeah, that's
Right.
fine.
okay. All right, moving along then, discussion lighting. Regular agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on lighting subcommittee membership and recommendations. I know that there has been a little bit of confusion about who is actually on the lighting subcommittee, and I think that it came down to, we had not voted properly Brian in, we had voted Jay in, but it looks like Brian has already been engaged with this work, and so what we're asking to do is just to clarify things here and establish that the lighting subcommittee consists of Tom, Brian, and Duke's on it, right?
Duke's
And Duke, and remove Jay from that.
I make a motion that the lighting subcommittee be comprised of Duke, Brian, and Tom, and that Jay Van Bay will be removed at his request from the subcommittee.
I second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, carries. Good, thank you.
No offense, Jay.
Did you?
No, none taken.
Possible. Okay. We are at we're not gonna get through an entire agenda. There is a council meeting that follows this at 7 o'clock, and I know that some people wanted to leave 15 or 20 minutes prior.
I'm okay now.
You
They
okay
canceled
right
the,
now?
lacrosse
Okay.
game.
I am going to, I don't wanna get into lighting recommendations, I don't wanna get into that tonight.
No.
I do
We have
wanna-
enough time.
To share this with Tom, to add to your pile, it came from the community outreach newsletter that some of us get, and it's a piece on, I believe, Lake Travis and their efforts to preserve the night skies with a list of recommendations. Did you
Mm.
see that?
Yeah, I did. I
Okay.
did see it, but I did not take it out,
Okay.
but I'll take
Pass-
that and
yeah, pass
make
that.
sure that we put it in the.
I thought their
Right.
list was
It's good.
helpful.
Just if you want a quick analysis of where we are,
That would be lovely if we can get through there, and yeah,
very quick.
we are still on item
I
6.
have a proposal.
All right.
That we've done. I'm not ready to, I'd rather there's still some things that I'm concerned about on how we do this. It's a reasonably simple deal. You want your lights shielded. You want to hit 0.25 looms at the property line, and you don't want blinking lights. That's the basics of what we're doing. The issue gets to be how we enforce these ordinances on that. I don't want light police running around and making, and if I go, any of us, go change a light fixture and we go to and how we're gonna have a problem with that. So we're gonna end up with a lot of this is gonna be, I think, is gonna turn out to be where we react to a problem rather than regulate the problem going in the forward deal, because we're not gonna be able to.
We can write that? Are we allowed to make
Yes, you can
ordinances
say,
that are kind of reactionary?
we can say, you can do that to where if there is a complaint, then the city administrator or his agents will then go investigate it and do that.
We can do
Yes.
that, we can put that in an ordinance.
Yes. You can do that.
Okay.
Says the city shall have the power to administer and enforce the provision of this ordinance as provided in, and I put that in there. So that's, I hate to have it in here, I just can't figure out a way that's gonna be in this, a way that's gonna make sense to do it
So
any
does
other
that,
way.
does that differ from how it's gonna be done in the commercial corridor?
A little bit different.
Yeah.
Commercial corridor, if you do something, you're gonna require a lighting engineer to sign off on 2 little pieces of paper. They sign off and says it meets the requirements on that. It's just not gonna happen on residential deals to where you're gonna be, I'm gonna get that done.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what we put in here, it's not gonna, all we're gonna be doing is making everybody violate the damn ordinance, which doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
So what I've got, and I've gotta meet with Duke, cause I wanna get his opinion on this. On new construction, we have an opportunity to do that. I would prefer to say, okay, the contractor and the owner of that property sign an agreement that they will adhere to the ordinance. They recognize the ordinance says this, and they'll do that.
Okay.
And if they don't, then we have to go to enforcement. I know that's not the way that I generally prefer to see things done, but I'm just not.
When you say we have to go to enforcement, does that mean then you get a lighting engineer involved or what?
No,
What's
we
that
have
mean?
the ability to register a light. It's not a very expensive device
Mhm.
that will tell you how many looms you have at a
Mhm.
property line
Okay.
on it. And that's most of what you're gonna be looking at doing, and you can tell if a light is shielded or not.
Mhm.
Now, none of my lights are shielded.
Right.
I tried to do I borrowed a loom meter, and I'm okay with the 0.25.
It works.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I mean that's not a big deal.
Mhm.
Now, the other issue that I'm dealing with is, am I dealing with just exterior lights or if I'm dealing with interior lights? There are a number of our new homes that are being built that are big homes that for some reason do not have shades or blinds. That's okay too, but they're very bright, and it's causing some issues. I think you've been facing that, and I understand.
Is that true? Is that
Yeah.
right? I'm not aware of that.
There will not be blinds on most of the windows on that house next to me.
That's
It's
because they're
just-
so expensive, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That's probably right, but okay,
Well,
but whenever
it's
you
not so
talk
much
about
the
that, then what's that
blinds.
doing to you? That's just, you're looking at a light that's over there, it doesn't necessarily mean that light is shining onto your property or keeping you awake at
Well-
night or anything.
Well, like a
does it?
lantern, like a light, like indirect lighting doesn't matter if it's,
That's right.
recessed lighting, that doesn't
That's right.
really matter, but like a hanging pendant
Mhm.
with
That's right.
with exposed bulbs
Yeah.
can kind of become like a lantern that actually does.
And the other
That's
issue is, that I'm dealing with is, quite frankly, is the topography of Rollingwood.
Mhm.
I can have shielded lights if I, because I looked at that, and
Right.
I'm on an upward slope.
Yeah.
If I put my shielded lights, I'm not sure that I'm shielding it to
Looking
my
at it, yeah, looking right
neighbor
at it.
that's located
Right.
on the downward slope across
Right.
the street from me. So, but that's where I'm at, and I was gonna, and there's a couple of issues I'd like our committee to weigh in on that, but I'll do that next
But is
time.
what's trying to happen, is it really that you're not having lights on that your neighbors can see? I don't think it's that. It's that you don't want to have light that is shining into neighbors' property and interrupting your privacy.
All right, so if I go,
Yeah.
if I get on Amazon
Right,
and I decide to get a blink light,
right.
okay, and
Yeah.
I put that on the eve of my house, I am going to shine that light as a security light is generally going to light up past the property line, or may.
It doesn't have to. if
It
they're
doesn't
going
have to,
straight
but
on.
it generally is. I'm looking at one right there, and it just, and that's a good example of what we have on that.
Or
So-
even if it's not topography, I've noticed some people are starting to put
Trees.
exposed lights on the second story eave
Yeah,
corners. So it's not just that they're capturing a body that might be here, they're doing it from up high, which to me, suddenly now it's intrusive to other homes. If it's just here and it's shining, motion detector.
But
In-
you're,
in
isn't
my
it whenever you
world-
take your meter and you're measuring this stuff, you're doing it at the property line, right? That's what you have to
That's
do.
right, that's right.
Okay, so if it's not more than 24 lumens or whatever it is you're using, then at the property line, then it's okay, right? Maybe if it's blinking, it's not okay.
Well, but glare, remember, I started out shielded
Right,
is the first thing you have to have.
okay,
And that is keep it from spreading out. on
Yeah.
that. I can't measure it 10 feet up.
right.
So, it's a lot more, there's some complications that I've just, not resolved yet, and I need to.
It seems to me that if you have a set of simple regulations that try, the gist of what you're trying to do, and then it gives community and neighbors something to
It does.
say, look, let's work this out. I've got something on my side that says you should do this,
And those, the four
because
things.
you're not going to be able to regulate it.
No, you're right. And the
completely.
four things that we're talking about really are the base, that covers most of what we're gonna be dealing with. I can't cover everything, is what I was trying to look at doing. Most of this is be a good neighbor, you don't have a problem. I don't wanna get in a light war with my neighbor where we're shining, spotlights on each other. And I'm sure we won't. But that's, Jay, I think it's gonna be it'll be a 2-page deal that is very simple to follow on that. And basically, if the worst case comes to it, that we do have an issue, it'll be Ashley's problem to resolve it.
Okay, well,
Oh, wait a minute, I said
I'm
that out
gonna,
loud.
I'm gonna
Sorry,
ask,
Ashley.
I'm gonna ask you, as soon as you've got something, please, send it along to me and I
I've-
will get it out to everybody else.
I've drafted this,
Okay.
Brian's looked at it, Duke
Okay.
hadn't, and as
All
soon
right.
as Duke looks at it, I will submit it.
That's great, thank
about
you.
that?
And then we'll pick it up next meeting,
And I am dying to hear about special exceptions.
okay?
Ashley.
Well, I think we have already promised staff that
Do
we
we need
are
a motion
going
to
to
adjourn?
adjourn.
I would make
okay.
a motion to adjourn.
All
I
right.
second the
We're
motion.
gonna adjourn, okay, very good.
All in favor?
All in favor, aye, okay, and it is 6:51, and I adjourn this meeting.